retouch whatever you need to.
I have a console.
Well, thank you all for being here today. We stand here today to pay tribute to a kind soul, an indulgent heart, and a disciplined mind. One of my dear friends of 40 years, Heinz. The greatest thing about being friends with Heinz was that you knew he would be there for you when you needed him. He would even help a friend to burn down his ex-wife's house. That's the kind of man he was. He was an incredible loyal to his friends. Another quality I like most about Heinz was his honesty. You always got a straight answer from Heinz. He hated lying and being lying too, which made him trustworthy. Heinz was known to always tell the truth, sometimes without a coat of sugar. He often dared to say out loud what everyone was thinking, and I love that about him. Those of more sensitive nature always got their feeling hurt, because, according to Heinz, the truth is the truth, even if it stings a little. Back in the days, when I would go out, often in some bars here in Houston, having a drink with Heinz and friends, when my wife Lisa wanted to reach me, she would call Heinz. And he would hand me his phone and he would say, with total honesty, as Heinz was, "It's your wife, answer the damn phone." Heinz was born under the sign of Sagittarius. Many of you know that I love signs, and always been fascinated by it. The Sagittarius sign has an independent streak like no other sign. Independence and the freedom to pursue what they want, when they want, is of the utmost importance to a Sagittarius. And Heinz was exactly like that. He was a traveler, a risk-taker, with a great mind for business and sports. Sagittarius aren't afraid to blaze their own trails, even if that means going it alone. And alone is how Heinz left us 2 weeks ago. Heinz was born to Walter and Rosa Kobe in December 21st, 1946 in Muttens, the municipality of the canton of Basel in Switzerland. He is survived by his nephew, Marco Kobe, who lives in Muttens in the house he actually grew up in. Heinz was a very, very humble man. Never wanted anyone to make a fuss or even his birthday. He used to say growing up that his birthday was so close to Christmas. As a gift, he would get the right sock for his birthday and his left sock for Christmas. Maybe that's why later in life, he never wore any socks. Heinz was a force to be reckoned with from the get-go, pursuing his passion for soccer, world travel, and entrepreneurialism throughout his life. He was a professional soccer with Paris Saint-Germain in Paris, France. He lived in New York, in Houston, and traveled the world as a salesman for SIBA, a Swiss corporation, for many years. In the late 80s, Heinz founded his own freight forwarding company, which was called Exim Trade, which actually designed his logo. In the 90s, Heinz took a sabbatical and went back to Switzerland to take care of his aging parents. Within a few years, missing Houston, his friends, and his way of life here in Texas, he returned to Houston to retire. While Heinz never married, he lived a full and vibrant life with more friends than you could count. To keep himself busy, later in his life, he was working for Global Import, a wine distributor based here in Houston. He served a handful of restaurants, which, knowing Heinz, he carefully selected. And he used to say, "I'm not working, and this job is just a hobby." And he was not joking. He truly enjoyed the relationship he developed with management, staffs, and regulars at Grotto, Café Brussels, Nick's Place, Bistro Le Cep, Epicure Café, and Memorial Tacos. So anyway, we will miss him. Memorial Taco, whoever wants to share a drink, we will all, after this, go to Memorial Taco or Vaite. We'll give you the address if you need to. In lieu of flowers, we have a little box here. you're all welcome if you want to give a donation. The donation will be for a bench which will be forever here in a soccer field with a plaque in memory of Heinz Kobe, which many of those fields, in particular this field, was the field that he played the most.
Field of course.
So it's kind of very symbolic. And now I would like to conclude with inviting, welcoming any comment from other friends. If you have something, raise your hand and share a fun story of Heinz with all of us. Thank you.
Yes, I'm Kel. I played with Heinz in 1980. That's when I met him. And we played on the same soccer team, not here, in another park in town. Of course, Heinz, I found out he was Swiss. And the team we had was a mixture of all kind of different nationalities. And I heard Heinz, he's the captain. And I was introduced to the teammates when I came because he was already in the team and played for the club. And I said, oh, good, we have a Swiss guy. They're kind of neutral and calm, and so I think this is good for the team because there are a lot of crazy personalities here. And we started the first game, and 10 minutes into the first game, I found out that he was not exactly the Swiss type I thought that Swiss people were, because I was young and I had just heard and read that, you know, Swiss people are neutral and they're kind of easygoing and blah blah blah, but that was not Heinz. So on the soccer field he was this Swiss Franz Beckenbauer. So he played in defense and he played down there and he tried to command and directing everybody, including goalkeeper. He did a good job because we had a very good team, and we actually won that season. So the tournament, and also we won the Texas Championships at that time. So it was a good time. And of course, he also liked to go out and drink after games. So we had the first half, halftime, second half, and he was ready for the third half as soon as the game was over. So that suited me good because I was single, I was young, and you know, the single guys could get together. So we had a lot of fun and drinks and so forth, and that's how I sooner or later met Johnny. I hope you understand me better than you understand it. You understand him. So we became friends through that soccer Swiss system, and there were some other friends from the soccer. But anyway, so it was a good time. That's it.
All right, tell one important item. It's the country that's neutral. So, Bill, if I can.
So, we all know our good friend Heinz. I met him in 1988 at a Christmas party with a Swiss client. And I was about to take my first trip to Switzerland. And so he and I started talking about his military service. We always loved soccer. And so after that party, I always liked him. And that's as I said, 88. And as I look around here, I know everyone, some very, very close friends, all through Heinz. But I don't want to gloss over anything. You may know I'm a lawyer.
Oh my God.
That's what Heinz used to say. I had an inexhaustible supply of lawyer jokes. But when I heard Kel talk a little bit about the Swiss, you may not know this about Heinz, but he felt that growing up in Switzerland actually handicapped him here. So, among other people I sued for, he asked me if I could sue his parents. They were living in Mutens, and well, Heinz, what did they do to you? He said, they brought me up to be too honest. I can't compete in this society. unfortunately, or fortunately for them, they never came over here to the States, so there's no way of serving them. But I think of the salient good characteristics of Heinz, one was honesty. There was absolutely no compromise on that. The other quality that you don't find in a lot of people was unflinching loyalty. You knew that you could call Heinz if you needed something, anything, and he would do it. So those are the two qualities when I think of Heinz that most come into my mind. But I also know that Heinz could be difficult at times, right? He did not mince words. Opinionated. And he and I, since I've known him politically, we've always clashed. That continued up until about 8 days before his death, when I met him at Nick's to watch some soccer, and he asked me, "What do you think about Black Lives Matter?" Knowing it was going to spark a contrary reaction. But we loved each other, and we knew no matter what our positions were, that was never going to change. So I know I speak for all of us when I say just how sad we are and just how much we know we're going to miss this very important person in our lives. And I can't think of a better way to honor Heinz than all of us, people he loved, coming together and remembering. Thanks for listening to me.
Thank you. So what do you think of that? Yeah, I know.
All lives matter. That's what Heinz says.
Yeah.
Each of us have been together. We are all together because of one person. And each person has a mission when they come on this earth. And many years ago, what I'm saying there, because many years ago I was reintroduced to the French and Swiss group by Heinz. He's the one who said, "Hey, come over at Cafe Express." Since then, I am still with the same people after so many years. Whatever he was, I would say, the child of God, and he was here at the proper time, and I know he's in heaven. He came here with a mission, and that's why I wrote a small poem. Like the wind blowing over the trees, I have come and gone softly and strongly over the sea of souls, seagulls over the waves, encourage and inspire. I have come and gone in spirit, inspiration led with you, continue the mission to love. May you rest in peace,
Hey everyone, my name is Dimitri. I played with Heinz. I'm going to try not to repeat the comments you've all heard because I agree with most of them. I echo, first of all, Tel's comments about Heinz on the soccer field and his distinct, as I remember it, little high-pitched voice yelling at everybody. Definitely that was not Switzerland. I played with Heinz even though I joined the club in the mid-'80s, and I played with him in my later years, maybe in my 40s, when we had kind of moved down the divisions from first division, then Premier, to third or 3A, which seemed to be going back and forth by the time we were 40s and our 50s. But the common bond is right here. It's been discussed. It's the soccer fields and the soccer and the drinking. So for years we couldn't decide if we were a soccer club or a drinking club, or some deadly combination of both. But what many of you may not know is back in the day, and why I think it's so fitting that the bench will be somewhere around here, we did play in these fields right here, and when the game was over, we would go over the fence because there's no alcohol allowed on the park. We would go over the fence, and some people would drive around and start drinking, park the cars on the sideways, on the grass there. So we became known as the ditch dwellers over there, and we got away with it for years and years. Nobody bothered us. Police used to drive by. Eventually, they got onto us after a couple of years, and they stopped. So with that, I think very appropriate that the bench is going to be here where he can watch the soccer games and look over the fence and remember the drinking years with his friends. Thank you.
Yeah, we were actually trying to get maybe some benches or table and go drinking like you guys used to do, but it's too close now with the freeway. We thought it was not appropriate.
It used to just be 2 lanes, you know,
Yeah.
That's true. It
and
was
and a
today.
big grassy area.
Yeah, with a lot of United people on it.
Yes, yes.
Anyone wants to say something? Yeah. Come on. Oh, come here with him.
The Yoss turn.
Okay, I remember Heinz since '89, right? And I used to have my own adult soccer league in the south, but the whole soccer it is. But I think Heinz's passion was not soccer at all. He was a card player. And when you guys play Sunday soccer, but he played Saturday card game. And there are some players here, Albert, Simon, Hausi, even you, but you are a bad player. There's some other, but what's happened was, I was coming in '89, and I come from Grisoni, Graubünden, so a little over here, but I love to play cards too, and so this group was bringing, let me forget, Switzerland, so I could play cards. And so we played in Roland Swiss Bakery back then. We moved to Rudi Lechner, then we moved to the Mason Jar, and so on and on. And we were a group of, I don't know, maybe 6, 7 regulars. So this is his true passion. And when you want to know how Heinz really was, his personality, you never saw him playing cards. And there it was. So that's the only thing I have to say.
I'm going to try and say something. I don't know if I can hold it together. But since he brought up the cards,
Yeah, please do the story when you want to.
when I was a young woman, I tried really hard to get close to my dad. And of course, it was a real competition on Saturdays to the Yoss game. So I decided, well, I'm going to go and I'm going to learn how to play this card game so I could have time with my dad. And that's when I met Heinz. And Heinz was very difficult because I was the only woman in the group, only young lady in the group. And he demanded perfection. And if you didn't play the right card, even though I was learning, he threw cards across the room. He made me a nervous wreck. But every Saturday I would show, and sometimes it took 2 or 3 volumes and 2 or 3 glasses of wine to get through it. But he made me the Yoss player I am today. So that's how our friendship started. And almost 40 years later, he's my nearest and dearest.
I'm Celeste. I met Heinz in 1975. I'd gone out to TGI Fridays with one of my friends who was her boyfriend just broke up with her and she wanted a female shoulder to cry on. So I'm sitting there at the bar at Fridays and I'm right in front of Heinz on the other side of the bar, and he looks at me and I looked away and I looked at him and he looked away. And my girlfriend, she just left. She knew that I wasn't into talking to her. And so it was the Winter Olympics on television at the time. And all of a sudden I looked back and Heinz was gone. He was right beside me. And he said, "Do you ski?" And I said, "No." And then the accent comes out and I'm like, "Oh, where are you from?" And blah, 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 blah. And on, he said, "Would you like to go out tomorrow night?" And I said, "Yeah." And I gave him my address and a phone number. And the next morning I woke up and I thought, what did I do? I don't know this person. Why am I going to go out with someone I don't even know? And so I stood him up. And I never called him. I just wasn't there. And he had come to my house, found out that I wasn't there, and called me. And I thought, I better answer his phone. And he called me, and he said, "Nobody does that to me." He was so mad. So I said, "Will you go out with me?" He asked again. And I said, "Oops, okay." I went out with him. And it's been over 40 years. And just one little thing like that can change your life. And he changed mine.
Maxime, you want to say something?
Yes.
You know, Johnny, of course, and I'm the accountant of Heinz, and he was a great guy. Perfection was, his motive.
This year, I normally, Heinz wanted for me to attend him, so of course I always did effort, and always was fun to have him around. He was sharing things from Switzerland, things, from his pensions, and this year, my mom in Argentina had an issue, so I left, and someone took care of it. So he called me back and said, "Hey, look, it's not the part of service that I'm entitled, so I let you go this time, but next year you better take care of myself." But he was great. He shared a lot of clients. He was smart, as you said. But no doubt you can learn about a personality like him. So I was very blessed of having him follow up on the friendship that we started, by coming to the office, having a coffee, and sharing memories. So I would miss it.
The first time I met Heinz, we were at Old Heidelberg. I don't know if it was after a polo game or whatever, and maybe he was at the polo game and came afterwards. And I'll never forget this entry because we were a big group of table and we were at a back bench. And the table was right here, and here comes Heinz, and there's space in between or whatever. He splits Johnny and I up, and he steps on a chair, steps on the table, and turns around and sits down. And he's like, I'm like, who the hell is this guy? And who does that in a restaurant? But anyway, we've had many.
It was the old Heidelberg.
Everybody was on the table.
Yeah. Many, fun times, and like you say, you can't. His loyalty and his friendship, and he loved our kids and was always around for them, along with Karen's kids, and just super. He always told it to you straight too. If I ever bitched about Johnny, he was like, "Lisa, you knew what you were getting into." It's like, I don't want to hear your bullshit, yeah, it's a sad loss for all of us, and he will be missed by everybody. He touched all of us.
Well, I guess it's time for a drink.
Okay.
Well, I will say one thing, but you got to hold it.
Yes.
You buy the first round.
Yeah.
I met Heinz at Old Heidelberg. I think it might have been that same trip there. And I asked Johnny, I said, "Who is this guy?" He's like real bossy, dominating. his voice was like high pitched. Anyway, so at first him and I, we didn't get along too well because I'm just a Texan. But after a few trips to the Cafe Express, you know, over the years, we became pretty good buddies. I'm not a soccer fan, but now I like to watch it. But I've always respected him. He had a very keen mind, sharp, and he was very precise. And I admire people like that that have their ducks in a row and they know what they want to do and go for it. That's the way I am. But cheers, Heinz, and have a great time in heaven playing soccer.
And yes.
The cookies here are chocolate chip cookies. They're for everybody.
Oh, it's not for Heinz?
Oh, no. He's watching us eat his cookies. Heinz loved chocolate chip and oatmeal raisin cookies. And I made sure that he got them, that his cookie jar was never empty. So, have a cookie.
All right, thank you. So these are all chocolate chips, no oatmeal raisins.
No oatmeal raisins.
One of the traumatic experiences you think you picked up a chocolate chip and might have
I went to
Sure.
my name is Alan Harris. You know, Heinz is very dear to me. I was his financial advisor. I met him at Merrill Lynch when I first started. A good friend of mine, who I've already talked to today, he was moving. He's moving to actually Colorado. And so he said, hey, before I leave, I want you to meet this client. I want you to be his advisor when I leave. So met, of course we all met at Grotto, had a drink. It was a great time, we got together. But since then, that was probably 1993. I was a really young pup at the time. And he had schooled me along on how to drink and how to not drink too much, because you know, I never could keep up, you know, but we had such a great time and experience. He was kind of like a big brother. He really did teach you the ropes about being tactful, on time, and he was a beast about that, as we all know. But I really loved him like a brother. He really taught me a lot about life and how to live life. And you know, I hated to hear about it today, you know, 2 weeks ago, and it really documented that, and I was really missing it.
You remember when he used to do, when we were drinking, he used to say, one more, one for the ditch.
Absolutely.
And now you know where the ditch is.
One for the bench. No doubt. Unfortunately. But like I said, he was an inspiration to me, and just been a great friend. And as I've met many of you all throughout the years, it's just, like I said, it's unfortunate. He lived a great life. He taught me how to live.
Thank you. You guys, direction, the one that are coming, where is Memorial Tacos? You all know where
Do you take the wort exit? The wort and
Huh?
Is that the one we drank last time?
Yeah, it's
Epicurean?
Yeah, it's Birth Road and I-10. You know, going towards downtown, if you go back I-10, it'll be on your right side on the feeder road of I-10 after Birth Road.
What road is that?
Where? Yeah. No, it's